Hi, Steve here, founder of the Hypothyroidism Wellness Group. I'm a wellness coach and a nutritional coach. This is part one of our three-part video series discussing what I believe is the most important toxin to remove from our systems if we have autoimmunity. We're going to be talking about the health dangers of plant toxins. They're proteins known as lectins, and how they are very dangerous to humans, and how various and insidious they are. So as plants evolved over millions of years, they developed lectins to protect themselves from predators. And just like any living thing, they develop a complex immune system to protect themselves from being eaten. So you can consider lectins natural insecticides. Lectins are concentrated primarily in the plant's seeds, so it's natural the plant's defense systems will go to all lengths to protect their next generation. This natural protective system plants have developed has now been duplicated by modern farmers. Crops are genetically modified to exhibit higher concentrations of lectins in order to protect crops from pests. This is how effective lectins are in warding off pests and insects from eating them. Unfortunately, this modern scientific breakthrough only makes things worse for us, because these same lectins protecting plants can be extremely harmful to humans. You see, many lectins are resistant to human digestion. We eat lectins mostly from grains, beans, nuts, certain vegetables, and fruits. Many of these proteins can go straight into our gut lining undigested, and this is a huge problem, as you'll soon see. Let's talk about these lectins and how they interact with our gut lining. Let me start this segment with a quote from Harvard Health Blog. Quote, "We already know that intestinal permeability, or leaky gut, plays a role in certain gastrointestinal conditions such as celiac disease, Crohn's disease, and irritable bowel syndrome. Some studies show that leaky gut may be associated with other autoimmune issues." Quote, so the mainstream medical world is a little bit behind, and they're still collecting more information and performing more studies on the connection between leaky gut and autoimmunity. And I think they are making strides to put these two together. However, functional practitioners have been aware of this connection for years, because functional practitioners ask why these diseases are happening. They have also been treating autoimmunity people for many years and seeing firsthand the results. What's been missing until now is an explanation as to why most leaky gut situations happen in the first place. Because if we can stop that, we can stop the autoimmune attacks and responses in our bodies, potentially for many people. Well, thank goodness pioneers in the medical world who focused on this issue have discovered this solution, which has worked for many people. I know firsthand because I lived through it. I found a medical doctor leading the way to this innovative solution, Dr. Stephen Gundry. He has written many books. You may have heard of him. His most notable book, The Plant Paradox, which you should read cover to cover if you have autoimmunity. His strategy to stop autoimmune issues by changes in the foods we eat are published for all of us to see. His program worked for me and many, many others with autoimmunity. And I promote his program in my nutritional coaching business because I know it is a real-world, successful, and workable solution. Many functional practitioners have similar protocols, but the Plant Paradox solution was really the first to take gluten-free to the next level. Dr. Gundry has taught us that there are many more lectins to eliminate from our diets than just gluten. And that's what's been missing in my opinion. Other functional practitioners are starting to come around to agree with Dr. Gundry's lectin elimination diet. I don't know for sure, but I suspect the medical mainstream community is wanting and waiting for a pharmaceutical solution to heal intestinal permeability. So they don't tend to buy into a natural solution necessarily because it's just not in their DNA. They tend to solve problems with medicine once they feel comfortable with something tested and proven. So my point here is you may be better off at this point searching out a doctor who has experience treating autoimmunity and has a successful track record with their patients. But additionally, you will also see many critics and naysayers online who will try to convince you that natural solutions to leaky gut is a diet fad or a hoax. Granted, there are a lot of charlatans in this business, but if you listen to the naysayers, just look for their solutions. They most likely have none, and most have zero success stories themselves. And many don't even have patients. Because if you surf the internet for answers on autoimmunity solutions, my recommendation is to search out doctors who've worked with real people to real successful outcomes. Thank God I did, because I didn't have time to debate this. I was in serious trouble. One other thing here. Have you ever wondered why autoimmunity is so prevalent in our modern society? Research tells us that 50 years ago and earlier, these autoimmune issues were rarely seen by doctors. Now, most pharmaceutical ads on TV are about drugs to treat autoimmunity. By the way, these drugs are designed to tap down your immune system, and that's scary. Maybe not necessary in all situations. Because I know we have enough real-life success stories to tell us that we can slow down and stop autoimmune responses with dietary modifications, naturally without drugs. So it begs the question, why is autoimmunity so prevalent now versus previous generations? It's becoming pretty obvious. Our modern American diet, loaded with grains, genetically modified to show more concentrations of lectins than ever before in human history. Consider this information from Dr. Kevin Stock, a writer and a researcher and a believer in a lectin-free diet. Quote, "Wheat, corn, and rice are grains, and grains are thought of as ancient foods, daily staples since the beginning of human existence. But if you put all of human existence on a 24-hour clock, grains didn't become a significant part of the human diet until 5 minutes ago. So for 23 hours and 55 minutes, humans did not eat grains. Besides requiring agricultural techniques to consume it in any meaningful way, grains are laced with plant toxins and anti-nutrients to prevent herbivores and humans from eating the plant's offspring. Grains are the seeds of grasses. However, 5 minutes ago, we took these plants, we made them a significant part of the human diet by artificially breeding and selecting for size and abundance. Then in the last second, during the Industrial Revolution, we began refining them, thereby further concentrating carbohydrates and their prepackaged toxins. In this last split second, we altered them even further. We began genetically modifying them. Now about 90% of major crops are genetically modified. We've engineered new traits into plants that wouldn't otherwise naturally occur. We've engineered higher lectin loads to deter insects. We began spraying them with pesticides, insecticides, and fungicides. We've added preservatives so we can store and ship these foods around the world. And all of these changes came with a heavy price. Consider wheat. Let's consider gluten in wheat. While gluten is an energy storage protein, not a carbohydrate, it comes packaged in wheat, which is a carbohydrate-based food. It's a good example of how we have fundamentally changed plant-based foods into artificial, synthetic, dangerous foods. When some people eat gluten, it triggers an immediate severe attack on the lining of the small intestine. It's known as celiac disease. Celiac disease dramatically increased in the U.S. in the 1960s and 70s. This is the same time that genetic breeding further transformed wheat. The 4.5-foot amber waves of grain turned into 2-foot semi-dwarf wheat. Yields went up, profits went up, and so did the gluten concentration. And it was not only more abundant, but the gluten was fundamentally different. The molecular structure of gluten was chemically altered. Many people's celiac is just a genetic condition, and gluten doesn't cause problems with people who don't have this condition. But an extensive study has confirmed that the risk of developing celiac is connected with the amount of gluten children consume. The ability to tolerate gluten is now commonly seen on a spectrum from those who have the ability to tolerate it in certain quantities to those who can't tolerate even the smallest doses. We know that our digestive tract doesn't handle wheat proteins called prolamins like gluten and other lectins very well. Genetically modified wheat and altered proteins are like foreign invaders to the body. They cause damage to the gut, leaky gut, which can lead to widespread inflammation, autoimmune disorders, and disease. So I hope I piqued your interest on how these plant toxins can play a role in autoimmunity problems. So let's stop this here and pick it up on video 2.